Remember when Sheryl Swoopes claimed, "Nobody wants to play with the Indiana Fever"? That narrative just got completely shattered. A three-time WNBA champion and former Defensive Player of the Year didn't just sign with Indiana, she specifically chose to team up with Caitlin Clark and is already fiercely defending her new teammate against critics. What's behind this shocking decision that has the basketball world buzzing? And why are established veterans suddenly flocking to a team that finished near the bottom of the standings last season? What's up, basketball fans? Today we're diving into what might be the most surprising WNBA offseason move that nobody saw coming, and how it's completely rewriting the narrative around Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. For months, we heard the critics. We heard the naysayers. We heard people like Sheryl Swoopes confidently proclaim that established WNBA stars would actively avoid playing in Indiana because of the Caitlin Clark circus. Remember that infamous quote, "Nobody wants to play with the Indiana Fever." The critics painted this picture that veterans would run away from Indiana, that they wouldn't want to deal with the media attention, the spotlight, and the packed arenas that follow Clark everywhere she goes. But then something happened that those critics never saw coming. Natasha Howard, a three-time WNBA champion, former Defensive Player of the Year, and one of the league's most respected veterans, didn't just sign with Indiana. She chose to return to the very team that drafted her back in 2014. This wasn't just any signing. This was a statement that ripped the Indiana is toxic narrative to shreds. During her introductory press conference, Howard couldn't contain her emotion. When I was on that stage at the press conference, I kind of got emotional a little bit, like I'm back here again where I started, and just how Stephanie White was speaking so highly of me. I'm like, this is where I need to be at, and this is where I belong. I'm just so happy to be able to come back and handle some unfinished business. The emotional weight of this homecoming was on full display when Howard was presented with her original Fever jersey from 2014. It wasn't just a contract signing, it was a full-circle moment that visibly moved Howard, connecting her past to what could be an incredible future with this revitalized Indiana team. What makes this even more powerful is that Howard wasn't pushed to Indiana or settled for the Fever as a last resort. She had options, plenty of them. As Kelly Krauskopf, the Fever's general manager, revealed when Amber and I started talking from the beginning, the person sitting next to me was our high-end integrity, high-class, great teammate target. Howard was their top priority from day one, a player they strategically pursued to transform their roster. The Fever's COO Amber Cox couldn't even contain her enthusiasm when introducing Howard, noting, "People say you should have a one-page resume. Natasha cannot have that, it is several pages." The list goes on and on and on. That's the caliber of player who just chose to play with Caitlin Clark in Indiana. What truly dismantles the Swoopes narrative is Howard's own powerful words about returning. Far from avoiding the Fever, Howard expressed profound gratitude. "I'm just really honored and blessed to see a team that appreciates me and that wants my light." She even reflected on her growth since her first stint with Indiana. "I just feel like I've grown a lot as a person, and just as a player, I feel like a lot of teams didn't really appreciate me how they should." This wasn't just a basketball decision, it was personal. It was about finding a home where her talents and contributions would be valued. And here's where it gets really interesting. Howard didn't just find a team that appreciates her, she found the perfect basketball soulmate in Caitlin Clark. This isn't just any partnership. We're talking about pairing a player nicknamed Flash with perhaps the most creative distributor in the game today. Howard's elite transition scoring ability creates exactly the type of target Clark has been missing in Indiana. While critics were busy claiming nobody wanted to play with Clark, these two were quietly forming what could become one of the most lethal fast-break duos the WNBA has ever seen. Let's break down what makes this combination so special. Howard is a transition scoring machine. Her ability to sprint down the court at full speed, maintain body control, and finish at the rim is exactly what the doctor ordered for a passer with Clark's vision. Last season, Howard was in rarefied air as one of just a handful of players averaging 18-plus points per game, while simultaneously pulling down 7 rebounds per contest. That kind of efficiency isn't just good, it's elite. Last season, with a minimum of 25 games played, Natasha Howard was one of just 13 players to average 18 points per game. She was one of 16 players to average 7 rebounds per game, and the list of players to average both 18 and 7 last year, short and elite. Aja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, Brittany Griner, and yes, Natasha Howard. Versatility is a major calling card for Howard. The Fever struggled last season with a roster that couldn't fully capitalize on Clark's otherworldly passing ability. Too often, potential assists were squandered by teammates who couldn't keep pace or finish in traffic. Enter Howard, who has built her career on being exactly that kind of finisher. In her introductory press conference, Howard couldn't contain her excitement about this perfect basketball marriage, specifically stating, "I can't wait to run the floor and get those passes," a clear acknowledgement of how she sees her game meshing with Clark's. She elaborated even further. "It's going to be the Caitlin Clark Flash show, playing with a point guard that has good vision on the court. As soon as she gets the ball in her hand, she's throwing it up because she already sees the person down the court before she even gets the ball in her hand. That's one thing I love about her vision on the court. I really can't wait to catch all those passes and give her all the assists that she needs." But Howard brings so much more than just offensive firepower. The Fever ranked near the bottom of the league defensively last season, and Howard's arrival immediately addresses that weakness. With a near 7-foot wingspan, she's a defensive nightmare for opponents, capable of guarding multiple positions effectively. The numbers tell the story. Howard has averaged at least 1 block and 1 steal per game for 7 consecutive seasons. That kind of defensive disruption transforms a team's entire identity. That wingspan and 6'2" inches height allows her to be disruptive defensively around the rim against opposing bigs too. In fact, Howard will enter the 2025 season 25th all-time in blocks in WNBA history. Think about what this means for Indiana's young roster. When Howard slides over to help defend the rim, it gives perimeter defenders more confidence to pressure ball handlers. When she jumps a passing lane with those long arms, it creates transition opportunities in the opposite direction, right into the hands of the game's premier outlet passer, in Clark. When Howard calls out defensive rotations with her championship-tested voice, the entire unit becomes more cohesive. The nickname Flash wasn't given to Howard by accident. Her quick twitch movements and ability to appear seemingly out of nowhere to make plays are precisely what the Fever lacked. Clark's pinpoint passing accuracy is wasted if receivers can't create separation or find open spaces. Howard excels at both, using her speed and basketball IQ to consistently put herself in advantageous positions. Imagine the nightmares opposing coaches will have game planning for this duo. Focus too much attention on stopping Clark's passing, and Howard will feast on one-on-one matchups inside. Pay too much attention to Howard rolling to the rim, and Clark will find shooters spotting up on the perimeter. It's a pick-your-poison scenario that could elevate both players' games to even greater heights. That pick-your-poison duo is just the beginning of Indiana's transformation. When Cheryl Swoops boldly proclaimed, "There's a lot of things going on in that locker room," she couldn't have been more wrong. The Fever didn't just add Natasha Howard. They assembled what might be the most dramatic one-year roster overhaul in WNBA history. The front office didn't stop after landing Howard. They've methodically built a championship-caliber supporting cast that has the basketball world buzzing. Dewana Bonner, a proven champion with championship DNA woven into her game, chose Indiana. So did sharpshooter Sophie Cunningham, who brings her playoff experience from the Phoenix Mercury. And don't forget veteran point guard and 2-time champion Sydney Colson, whose steady leadership and championship pedigree will be invaluable for the younger players. Think about that for a second. In one off-season, a team supposedly nobody wanted to play for somehow attracted 4 championship-caliber veterans. That's not just a coincidence. It's a complete rejection of the narrative Swoops and other critics tried to establish. These players didn't just randomly select Indiana. They specifically chose to join this roster, this coaching staff, and yes, this team featuring Caitlin Clark. What makes this roster transformation even more impressive is how perfectly these pieces complement each other. The Fever now have the perfect blend of youthful talent and championship experience. Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, and Caitlin Clark provide the young cornerstone pieces, while Howard, Bonner, Cunningham and Colson bring the championship mentality needed to turn potential into results. The locker room culture transformation could be just as significant as the on-court improvements. Howard isn't coming to Indiana just to put up stats. She's arriving with a clear mission to instill a championship mindset. She wants to show the younger players exactly what it takes to compete at the highest level day after day. We have a young group that's hungry and ready to win a championship. Howard explained, we added new pieces, so I'm really excited about that. I just can't wait to get things going and help this young group learn. This is what it takes to win a championship, and at the end of the season, that's what we're going to be holding up. This isn't just about adding talent. It's about building a sustainable winning culture. The Fever have strategically constructed a locker room environment where trust and chemistry can flourish. Howard's leadership will be central to this transformation, creating an atmosphere where younger players can develop while veterans provide the steady guidance needed during tough stretches of the season. When asked directly why she chose Indiana when she could have gone anywhere, Howard's answer was simple yet profound. I just feel like I'm supposed to be here. God works in mysterious ways, and He put me back where I started. Like I said, we still have unfinished business since 2015. For a franchise that's been rebuilding for years, this sudden influx of championship experience has analysts completely re-evaluating their expectations. Some are already ranking the Fever as potentially the 3rd best team in the entire WNBA next season. A stunning turnaround for a team that was near the bottom of the standings just months ago. What's most telling about this transformation is how quickly the narrative has shifted. The Indiana Fever aren't just viewed as a team on the rise anymore. They're being discussed as legitimate title contenders. The days of nobody wants to play there are emphatically over. Now the question isn't whether players want to join the Fever, but rather how soon this new-look roster can compete for championships. Howard's excitement about teaming up with the players she previously faced as opponents speaks volumes. I'm really excited to also play with Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, like the players that I also said stuff on the court to when I was playing against them. But I'm happy I'm playing with them, not against them anymore. That enthusiasm is infectious and represents a complete departure from the toxic locker room environment critics tried to portray. Howard didn't just sign with Indiana, she's actively embracing the opportunity to be part of something special alongside Clark and the young core. In one fell swoop, Howard's decision has silenced the critics who claimed established stars would avoid the Clark circus. She's not just tolerating the increased attention, she's embracing it, recognizing the unique opportunity to play alongside a generational talent while helping to establish a winning culture. The Indiana Fever, once portrayed as a franchise nobody wanted to join, has transformed into one of the WNBA's most compelling destinations. The addition of Howard, combined with the other veteran signings, has created a roster that perfectly balances youth and experience, offensive firepower and defensive grit, individual brilliance and team-first mentality. As the 2025 WNBA season approaches, the basketball world will be watching closely to see how this newly assembled squad performs. But one thing is already clear. The narrative about Clark and the Fever has been completely rewritten. Nobody wants to play with the Indiana Fever. That couldn't be further from the truth. Just ask Natasha Howard, who didn't just join the team. She's defending it with the same passion she brings to the court every night. The transformation is complete. The Indiana Fever, once an afterthought in WNBA circles, has emerged as a destination franchise with championship aspirations, and at the center of it all stands Natasha Howard, the three-time champion who saw something in Indiana that the critics missed, the foundation of something special, a chance to mentor a generational talent, and the opportunity to bring championship glory back to where her professional journey began. The critics can keep talking. Natasha Howard and the Indiana Fever will be too busy working toward a championship to hear them. So what do you think? Has Natasha Howard's arrival completely changed your expectations for the Indiana Fever next season? Could this new super team challenge for a championship right away, or will they need time to build chemistry before making a serious run? If you enjoyed this breakdown of how Howard's return could transform the Fever alongside Caitlin Clark, smash that like button right now. Don't forget to subscribe for more WNBA coverage and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest videos. Drop your predictions for the Fever's 2025 season in the comments below.